Heya, it's Heya, and welcome to the newest episode of Between the Cups. Today, I'm joined by our guest, Kittum Cosplays. Kittum, would you like to introduce yourself at all?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Kittum. I go by they, them pronouns. I identify as bi gender and I'm an avid cosplayer.
Okay, and so this is a little tiny interview for Pride. So, do you want to tell us what Pride means to you?
Yeah. I think I've never personally ever gotten to like participate in Pride. I've never gotten to go to like any of the parades or anything. So this is like really exciting for me to be doing this interview. But for me, Pride is an opportunity to show what the community means to you and like how important it is to identify the way that you do and show your uniqueness in a month that everyone else can do the exact same thing that you're doing. And it's just exciting because everybody is kind of like in that mindset and there's like a big sense of camaraderie with like the Pride community. So that's what that means to me.
And so, you've never experienced Pride before, like you've never been to a parade or anything like that?
Yeah,
Because
never.
I've only been to about three or four in my life. So, when the whole situation going on with the world ends, are you going to start attending any live Pride events?
Yeah, I'm actually going to LA in a couple weeks. And me and the person I'm staying with have been looking for events to go visit, but unfortunately, like things are still closed because we've got quite a bit of ways to go once we're like totally out of this. But hopefully when the time comes, I'll be able to. But that's definitely something that's on my list. But I don't think it'll be able to happen this month, unfortunately, or next month.
That's fair, because for anyone that doesn't know, these interviews are actually taking place before Pride so that they're ready for Pride. So that's why when we talk about Pride, it gets a little iffy because we're not exactly there yet.
Yeah.
And so let's start talking about your own personal journey with Pride. So, how do you identify?
So I identify as both male and female at the same time, which is like weird even for me, the person who is talking about it. But there's a term for that and it's called bigender, um, which I don't hear about as often as agender, which is really interesting. Agender is the absence of any gender, but bigender falls under the non-binary spectrum, which could also mean you don't identify with a binary gender, which is male or female. But it's interesting because I identify as both, which anyway, that's kind of meta. But it's hard to explain. Some days I feel more male, and some days I feel more female. But neither gender really ever leaves any day of the week. Like I always feel a certain percentage of both. And some might say, like, isn't that gender fluid? Isn't that like some other thing under the umbrella? It could be. It could be. But I've always found with lots and lots of research and lots of speculation, because this is important to me, that the term bigender has been what I identify with the most.
Hey, and so because bigender is one of those genders that fits in the non-binary spectrum, so it
Mm-hmm.
gets drowned out a lot. Do you
Mm-hmm.
find that for yourself coming out was a little harder, or was it a little weird? How was coming out for you?
Honestly, I feel like I'm always coming out. Like I feel like it's just never stopped. Like especially living at home, my sister is really the only one who like knows, even though I've literally told my parents several times. They just kind of don't get it and I've given up. So every time I change workplaces, I have to come out. Every time I introduce myself to somebody else, I have to come out. Every time I see somebody from college and they see my Instagram, they're like, what, they, he, I have to come out. And it gets kind of tricky sometimes. But when I first came out, it was really hard because um, I discovered I was asexual before anything else, and that was coming out to my ex now, but my boyfriend at the time. Um, but then I had to come out as by gender or non-binary, and then after that, I came out as bisexual. So it's a lot.
And so, since it's one of those genders that's more unheard of, what exactly does that feel like to you personally? How does that affect yourself?
Bi gender.
Yeah.
It's like, for me personally, I've always I don't really want to say the word swung because that sounds weird, but I've always felt more male than female, but being called man sounds weird. Like I don't want to be considered a man. Like I'm not. I'm trying to think of how to explain it because it's really just like this weird state of mind I'm in all the time. But it's really just like this weird fluctuation of male and female, slightly tipped towards male all the time. But it could be like if I randomly decide I want to wear a dress, which I don't know why I'd want to do that. I've gotten rid of all but like two of my dresses because I just don't identify with that. I could feel like super masculine. But of course, society will be like, well, clearly you're female bodied and you're wearing a dress. So, like, no, but I would feel the need to like drop my voice or like have a different cadence and like talk differently, act differently just because of this mental state that I'm in. Maybe to prove a point, like, hey, I'm wearing a dress, but like, hey, don't assume that I'm feminine or female. But yeah, it's really interesting.
And so, would you say that it gives you a sense of comfort, or like,
It depends on the day, but I'd say for the most part, yes, or else I wouldn't use that label to identify myself in the first place. Like that's, in my opinion, that's why, for me personally, I use labels because it makes me feel comfortable, but a lot of the time it is confusing. It took a lot of time to like understand it and see why I felt that way and to feel validated because a lot of the time I'm like, am I just crazy? Like, is this just not, this is weird? But it has brought me comfort over time.
okay, and but that I slightly understand that because, of course, this time last year I was meeting a lot more people in person and talking to a bunch of other drag queens and non-binary pals, like in real life. And so, because like we're friends online, but like we because of that we don't get to talk face to face like this as often. So, getting to talk with some of the drag queens or drag performers I know who also identify as non-binary on the real life is when I switched from just being straight up trans female to just going to the trans femme label.
Hmm.
And so because I don't identify as fully female all the time, that's
Hmm.
not something I'm fully comfortable with. It actually I find it puts a lot of horrible pressure on me sometimes.
Okay, I noticed your pronouns changed somewhat recently, so I was a little bit curious about that too.
Yeah, and so because I know that also led into because of course I do drag, and so for that I'm actually gonna ask you about cosplay and your gender identity because I know for myself I didn't know how I felt identity wise or even pronoun wise until
Hmm.
I did my first time in drag, and then I
Mm,
was femme for the entire night, and that was a sense of gender euphoria that I wasn't used
yeah,
to.
yeah,
So, how has cosplay helped you in any way with the gender identity?
yeah. It also, well, it actually started with fictional characters, to be honest. Like, ever since I can remember, like, fictional characters made me feel validated. Like, I would get really attached and hyperfixate on specific characters, and they would make me feel safe. Like, I would almost like relate them to like a certain facet of my personality and like almost copy them. Like, I would feel really inspired by like this facet of their personality, and I'd use that for comfort. And I noticed over the years that every single character I related to was male and never any female characters I would relate to. And I was like, I wonder why. Like, why is this the case? And then I got into cosplay where I could finally be these characters. And I was like, this feels pretty damn good. Like, why does this feel so good? Like, why am I enjoying this? Maybe I'm enjoying this too much. Like, I don't know. But the more I did it, the more it felt right. Like, not necessarily being that character. It did feel right being a character, but like I'm me, like I'm not a character, I'm myself. But I'm like, maybe this gender and identifying as this gender has something to do with the comfort I feel as these characters. So I started to look up labels, like, or why do I feel this way, you know? Because you gotta there was a point where labels didn't exist for everything, and it wasn't as easy to like understand what you're going through, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago even. And after that, I finally realized like maybe I'm not cis. But it was definitely an adventure.
Because I know recently, because I know I perform as a drag queen, which is still a femme figure. I just
Mhm.
do my makeup a little more exaggerated. I'm looking into doing more drag king stuff now and building a
Mhm.
persona for that. But I know my problem with that was, well, because I used to think I used to have to present as high femme all the time, like 24/7, or no one would take me or my gender identity
Yeah.
seriously. So trying to look masculine anyway would give me a sense of dysphoria,
Mhm.
and that would knock me out for days.
Yeah.
And I know theme for cosplay has helped a lot with that because doing a male character that's already like a personified figure is a
Mhm.
lot easier than like putting together a drag persona or just even wearing like looking mask for a day.
Yeah, yeah, because you have
Um,
inspiration towards that personality.
yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
I'm wondering, how has dysphoria affected you?
Oh God, it's knocked me down a lot. It's actually since quarantine, it's gotten pretty bad. I'll be honest. Like, because I live with my family, and again, they don't understand. They won't understand. I love them. Like, I'm very close with my family. They're great people. Like, I adore them. They just don't get it. But which is fine. I'm not going to force them to. But being in a house for 15 months, not being able to go anywhere, and only having access to like people online that'll validate you, it really, no matter how confident you are in your own skin, it really knocks you down. It really it hurts. There's been a lot of mental dysphoria. Like, am I actually bi gender? Am I actually like identifying this way? I've actually changed my pronouns quite a bit over these past few months because I've just been unsure for that reason. There's been a lot of like upper body dysphoria, chest dysphoria, bottom dysphoria, like all that stuff. Still something I'm trying to get through, but as I'm like being able to see people better and receive validation stuff, it's gotten a bit easier. But living here, it's gotten really bad.
Okay, dysphoria affects me in a very similar way. Actually, for a long time, I never even felt bottom dysphoria until quarantine happened.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's there, and it's like, hello, I don't
Oh
feel this
gosh,
at
it's
all.
the worst feeling.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Especially since I started exercising recently,
Mhm.
and especially when you're exercising, all of a sudden you just notice. You're like, hmm.
Yes, yes. I've started exercising recently as well, like to feel better about my body, to get some muscle, like upper body muscle, and feel better, which I
Yeah.
have, but like it does make you notice stuff as well.
And so, besides dysphoria, what would you say has personally negatively impacted you the most for being a member of the community?
Besides dysphoria, I guess other people just not understanding, but at the same time, I can't really complain because that's, taking the trash out. Because like if they don't accept you, why do you need them? If they're not willing to understand you, like it's their loss. So at the same time, like not really anything. Like it's kind of done me good regardless.
All right, so with that, what about positively? How has that affected you positively?
Yeah,
Like, is
it's
there,
a lot of people give Instagram a lot of crap about it being like really bad with like the algorithm and just not showing people's work. But I've met so many people that have inspired me to like feel good about myself. And like with that in mind, like that energy, that influence, and like feeling good about my own sexuality and gender has given me the courage to like cut my hair the way I wanted to. Like this, I didn't cut my hair all at once. It was in gradual snipped, and like I feel better than I have ever with my haircut. Like I've just gotten a lot of inspiration on the internet, like working out. Like it's important to make sure your mental health is doing well if you're if you're exercising and you're working out your upper body, that'll make you feel better. Like if you have any physical dysphoria, I didn't know about that. I didn't know that was a valid worry until I read about it online. Style, like fashion choice, that's changed a lot again because of like influence online. Like I feel better about that. Like feeling validated by other people has made me feel valid in myself. Like of course I don't need validation, but it certainly makes me feel a little bit less crazy to think about, you know, being my gender and stuff, when other people, when I see other people talking about it, you know.
And so are there any like instances that you specifically remember that have just popped up and made you feel the dopamine?
Not that I can think of. I just, there's a lot of solidarity, like seeing people in person and like saying that their pronouns are also like he, they, or something like that. I'm like, oh cool, me too. Like just little feelings of like, oh me, yeah, same. Like that, I guess the same feeling of camaraderie that you get during Pride Month, like those little tiny feelings of validation, like that's what comes to mind.
And so something we've talked about already earlier while we were talking about your identity was labels and choosing labels that felt comfortable for you. And so what do you think about those who reject labels but are still part of the community?
I think like good for them. Like if they don't need to do research to figure out like what label works best for them, and like if they don't need a label to define who they are as a person, like cool, like that works out. The only reason I looked up labels is because I was confused and desperate. Like, and I know that doesn't go for everybody, but like it helped me again bring me down from feeling like, am I valid enough? Like, is this okay? Because I was confused. But now I'm sure like a lot of people, my cat is yelling. I'm sure a lot of people are like already know about these labels and are like, I don't need labels. Like, that's okay, which like that works.
And so going to that, with labels especially, I spend a lot of time on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about things like coming out and stuff? Because I notice it happens a lot on social media when people just start assuming things and commenting and trying to force labels on people until like someone has to come out.
Oh, yeah. I haven't actually seen that. Like, so people are like bullying other people into coming out?
I would I never have a problem like it. I would say it's close to bullying,
Mm-hmm.
but because TikTok's full of a bunch of children
Yeah.
mostly. So especially in like cosplay wise when you're in a fandom or something, and then you start doing more personal TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed a lot of the time you get bombarded with all the, well, do you identify as this? Do you do this? All the way to the point where, like you have to address it. And
Yeah.
I know I don't remember their handle, but there was a certain cosplayer where they were basically forced to come in on TikTok, which they were trying to avoid because they had family on there.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. I see, like, not everybody has the same situation and not everybody's like the same person, but if people started bombarding me and I was in a situation where I couldn't, I would probably like private everything so that I didn't feel forced into it. And like you can set filters on TikTok where you like put words and comments, like comment filters, so that if people say that word, you can like look at it before deleting it or approving it. But I wouldn't let that fly, or I just like block them or delete the comments. I actually posted a cosplay video a couple weeks ago that got pretty big, and people started saying like mean stuff. But then there were like, what are you, like, are you a girl or are you a boy? Like you sound like a girl but you look like a boy. What is in your pants? And I'm just like, no, I don't have time for this, block. But not everybody's the same, so really any kind of reaction would be valid. But it's a shame that this person felt the need to have to like prove themselves and then got outed on the internet. Like that's awful.
Right, and so with all of this together, the cosplaying and the coming to terms with your own identity. And we talked a little bit about confidence and dysphoria. And so, how would you put the state of your own self-love? Like, how does that work for you, and how does that feel for you?
Oh, it's taken me years to get to a point where I can say that I love myself. Like I am definitely at like a high point right now, but it wasn't always like this. I think it started to go back up after quarantine, like right before quarantine started, I think is when it got better. But definitely like trusting in myself and like knowing that I'm valid and like knowing that it's okay to not ask people for like their opinions and their validation all the time, but like trust it in myself. And as weird as it sounds, going to a mirror and like saying I love you to the mirror actually works like really well.
There was a that's some because I watch there's like on YouTube there's this Lizzo playlist,
I love Liz. Oh God.
and she gives a speech in one of them about self-love and talking to yourself in the mirror and
Yes.
telling you that you love yourself. And so, yeah, I've been doing that too lately because it's been a little bit down more recently,
Yeah.
which is why I haven't been posting or anything.
Yeah. It's a hard time right now.
But thankfully I am nearly fully back. I just have to wait for my second dose appointment,
Yay.
which I'm excited for because that means that it'll be a 2-week wait and I'm still wearing a mask because I'm probably gonna keep wearing a mask for
Yeah.
a year or two
Same.
after for sure.
Right.
But hopefully, I'm hoping next year cons make a comeback. 'Cause I know
Hmm.
for me personally, conventions are like a little comfy space,
Hmm.
especially since that's where I get to see you and everyone else. I get to go visit you
Hmm.
guys, and I'm very excited for that. So then, because for me personally, conventions are a very loving space,
Yes. Yes,
and
they
so
are.
even if I spend the Sunday crying, because that's goodbye to everybody, but
It's worth it.
but yeah, because I'm excited to see you in person again. It's beautiful seeing you now.
I still remember the last time we saw each other in person. Like that was so nice.
Right here in Todoroki.
Yes. I remember just being just inside the AWA lobby, like towards the back near the gardens.
Yeah, that was comfortable. I even got to meet a few of your friends.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, and I got a bunch of candy that I didn't eat till almost a month later.
Sorry, what was that?
I got a bunch of candy that I didn't eat till like a month later.
Oh yeah. You gotta hoard it and then you can eat it. You have to hoard it first.
Exactly.
Yes.
So with that, I think that comes to an end of the interview. Unless there's anything else you would like to say or talk about.
Not that I can think of. I think I covered everything.
That's perfect. I think this is a really lovely conversation. And I
Yeah.
would like to thank you for joining us on Between the Cups. And to my honored guests, I would like to thank those of you that have joined us and those of you that stayed to the end here to see the ending. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation between me and my darling Shnookums. And I would like to thank everyone. I hope everyone had a great time. I had a wonderful time. I loved getting to know you a little better, Shnookums.
Yes, I
And
do.
so I hope you all enjoyed your cups with us. Pinkies up. Have a great day.